Welcome, Suresh.
Thank you, Todd.
So we made an announcement earlier this year that BAFT, which was founded in 1921 by 10 Midwestern U.S. companies, but became part of the American Bankers Association in 2002, was going to separate from the ABA and become independent again, effective September 1st. So maybe you can share with everyone here, why are we doing it?
It's interesting. Timing is everything, right? When we started talking about this separation some maybe 30 months ago, 24 months ago, we looked at it from a theoretical construct. And the events of today tell us how right we were, right? The American Bankers Association by charter is designed to focus on its U.S. chartered banks. BAFT's membership is 70% international, global. And if we have to have neutrality from a geopolitical perspective, it is complicated to be a subsidiary of the American Bankers Association and play that role without compromising the American Bankers Association position.
Yeah.
So when we did it, we did not know that it would be what we are facing today from a geopolitical perspective would be reality. But the benefit of hindsight, we were spot on.
Yeah, yeah. Timing is everything, right?
Absolutely.
But so the ABA is obviously a very large, well-known, well-funded parent to have. What do you see as being the risks and the benefits of us coming out from the umbrella and standing as an independent?
Let me start by acknowledging that the ABA has been a great partner over these years and a great parent company to support us during tough times. And that was tested during the COVID period when our revenues died down. We couldn't do physical conferences, and we needed support, and the ABA came through and came through well, right? So I think the biggest risk from an organizational standpoint is the financial strength of a strong parent company in troubled times is great help. Having said that, in the last 36 months, we have built up our financials, and when we look at where we are today, BAFT is in a reasonably strong financial position. Now, when I look at the benefits of an independent BAFT, I think the first thing we talked about is the neutrality, right? The equidistance from any jurisdictional influence is there now. So our members can count on us from that perspective to be able to represent all their interests equally without any bias or misbalance. The second important factor is the independence that this affords the BAFT Board of Directors and the BAFT membership as a result of that in charting a path for the growth of BAFT and the direction and the subjects that we may take forward for the interests of the BAFT community. And I say that it also enables us to be more nimble and agile when to size the setup and the infrastructure to the needs of a smaller organization. Right. I think these are the pluses of being standalone.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned over the past couple of years, we've rebuilt the coffers, so to speak, and built up the financials. What else has the board done to prepare for this independence?
This is an interesting question. I think the last 2 years, I've been part of the board for a fair clip of time, and I can say very clearly that the last 2 years have perhaps been the most active period for the BAFT board, the BAFT executive committee, and in preparing the organization for September. We constituted a separation task force, which was spearheaded by Miriam, who did a stellar job in creating the work groups, a governance task force, a communications task force, and we also employed a consultant, 3TI, to work with us in setting in motion the various pieces that were needed to make sure that on September 1st, we are ready to go live.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy lifting has taken place over the last 2 years, not only to bolster the financials, to make sure that we were in a robust financial health, but also to get the pieces needed so that the transition is as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
A lot of work went around the BAFT teams, the task force, the EXCO, the board. So I'm very grateful to the effort from the teams in this direction.
Yes. So what do you think this will mean for the strategy of BAFT and the future of BAFT?
BAFT is, I think some things will remain core and unchanged, right? There are 4 pillars that we focus usually on. Thought leadership and promoting best practices, advocacy, education, and building the community. These core 4 pillars will remain areas on which BAFT will be focused and anchored on. We have been, over the last couple of years, also under the leadership of Michelle, trying to look at revenue diversification, to look at other sources of revenue for BAFT so that we can expand and create a financial buffer so as to serve the needs of our membership better. The part that we think we are going to have to work on more actively is local and regional partnerships, right? We have talked about it. Today we are a subsidiary of ABA. Tomorrow we should be looking at local outreach and partnerships in multiple jurisdictions so as to be relevant for our membership in respective geographies. And we will get a chance to reset and review these periodically. Any event, every 3 to 5 years, we reset strategy, we relook at our goals and objectives, and that effort will, once the dust settles from these one-time efforts, we will have the bandwidth to reassess down the line what we need to do.
Yeah, good. Excellent.
So maybe I'll take a shot at asking you a few questions, I thought.
Sure.
What does this mean for the operations of BAFT?
So one thing I want everyone to know, and I've had a couple people ask me this, is to make clear, is that our expectation is to make this separation seamless to all of you. So the BAFT staff that you know and love and talk to on a fairly regular basis will still be the same staff. The phone numbers may change, but it will still be the same voice on the other end of the phone. Our committees, our councils, our working groups that are working on all of the issues that I alluded to earlier, we're going to continue to work on those issues, and we're going to try to stay laser focused on this. One of the things I'm extremely proud of is that over the past 2 years, with all the work that's been going on, that the amount of work we've been able to accomplish on behalf of you all, vis-a-vis the advocacy, vis-a-vis the white papers, has continued, and not only continued, but has actually accelerated. And so we're going to expect that that will continue and that will not change. Our international headquarters will remain in Washington, D.C. What some of you may not realize is that all of the BAFT staff for the past 2 years have been working remotely. So we will continue to work remotely. That allows us to be nimble. It allows us to have personnel that are based in a variety of regions without being tied and tethered to Washington, D.C. We do have some regional part-time support in Asia and in Europe, and we're hoping to be able to add some additional support in the MENA region. But for all practical purposes, we want to make this seamless to you. And I think the elephant question in the room would be, no, we don't expect any of your membership dues to change as a result of this separation.
Perfect. And so membership dues won't change. What will change for the members?
Yeah. So I mentioned some of the basic things like phone numbers will change, our address will change, and things of that nature. Now, we are currently running on all of the infrastructure provided by the American Bankers Association. So we have to unhook from that infrastructure. That means all of our HR systems, all of our finance and accounting systems, all of our IT, all of our billing systems, our customer information systems, all of that information and data has to be moved. So we went through an extensive process, and not just the data, but the support of those systems. So we went through an extensive process to find a partner who could take on all of those infrastructure functions that the ABA was providing us. And ironically, they're housed right next door in the National Press Building. If you went out front of the hotel and turned right, before you got to the corner, you would pass by the new BAFT office. So over the next 2 months, we're going to be moving all of that information. We'll be testing all of that information. And what it means is that some of the look and feel of things like the bills that you get from us will change. Some of the contract looks for sponsorships and things like that will change. Some of the interactions that you have with our website and the technology may in fact change. But largely from a functional point of view, we expect, again, this to be seamless.
Excellent. And what actions, if any, do you expect members to take?
So here's the big thing, and this is my big ask of all of you, and I'm sure you can recognize this, is that our moving out from under the ABA, our establishment of a new account for which you'll be paying your membership dues and sponsorships and so forth, we're going to need to set up new bank accounts and all of the rest of that. That's likely going to trigger, in some of your organizations, a need for BAFT to be re-onboarded in your organizations. And that can be, as all of you know, a somewhat lengthy and complicated and long process. So what I really am asking of all of you is to help us through that process. Help us navigate through that in a way where your organizations can understand we're still the same 104-year-old association that you've been a part of, that certain relationships with the ABA are changing. And if you can help us to kind of front load or advance any of the expectations that your organizations are going to ask from BAFT in that re-onboarding process, to just really help us through it, because we don't want that to become a disruption to you being able to access your member benefits or engage with us. The other thing that I want to prep you for, and I mentioned some of the systems will change. So it is possible that your engagement and interaction through our website and other systems may require you to reestablish sign-on passwords and things like that, but we're hoping that that's not going to be a heavy lift. And other than that, I'm just going to make the same ask that I always do, which is please just stay absolutely engaged with BAFT so that we can hear from you if anything is not working the way that you expect it to work, or if you're running into problems, let us know so that we can be responsive and try to address it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd be remiss if I didn't do one thing, and that's I want to acknowledge someone who, I want to acknowledge a couple people who are very important to this process. One is Daniel Pino. Is Daniel in the room? Daniel's in the middle. So Daniel is so Daniel is the person who is centrally responsible for conducting all of the train traffic or air traffic control for all of the initiatives that are going on to make this transition happen. And it is on time, on schedule, on budget, and he's done a fantastic job with that up to this point. We still have a lot of heavy lifting to do, but I want to acknowledge that. The second is I want to acknowledge Steve Bash. Is Steve in the room? Steve is sitting in the middle. So many of you know Steve, some of you may not know Steve, and I also want to acknowledge Steve is going to be retiring after a very long and storied career in this industry. Steve is a past chair of BAFT, and Steve had the foresight in 2001 and 2002 to see that at that point in time in the evolution of BAFT, it was important for us to find a strategic partner. And he was the one that engineered the affiliation of BAFT with the American Bankers Association. So I had a chance to talk to Steve actually before the board voted to separate from the ABA, just to tell him what we were doing and sort of ask for his blessing, if you will. But I think we talked about the history and where we came from, where we're going, and I think we both agreed that BAFT is going to continue to go from strength to strength. But I want to thank you for your support, for your foresight with the association years ago, and congratulations to you in your retirement. So I see we've got a few questions on here, and I know our time is running short, so maybe I'll try to take these in rapid fire.
Sure.
If you're okay with that, feel free to jump in. Our relationship with the ABA will continue to be, I think, constructive in that they have largely allowed us to run our operation the way we need to run it. But where they can be helpful from a policy engagement point of view, because clearly they've got policy connections that we do not, we are going to continue to look to connect with the ABA. But I want to emphasize, we want to have the similar relationship with the national banking associations in your countries so that, again, the policy work that we're doing can be relevant for you in a local context. And so that's another area where you can help us make sure we're connected with your local association.
If I may, this separation is mutually on amicable terms. We are not fighting with the ABA as we are separating. It has been a very constructive effort that we have engaged with the ABA. So we expect to maintain those good relations going forward.
Yes, yes. There's a question around Latin America. We will actually we did a Latin America outreach in Miami not too long ago, and we'll be doing another outreach immediately in advance of Felibon this year. So it is our goal to expand our engagement with Latin America. If Ricardo is in the room, I'd ask him to just wave his hand. We actually have also just elected a new co-chair of our Americas Council from Banorte, and it's the first time that we've had a co-chair of our Americas Council which is not from the US or from Canada. And so I know we've got his support also to help us with our connectivity and engagement in Latin America. Let's see. Global partnerships. So Suresh, I don't know if you have a thought on the global partnerships.
I think we have discussed this at length at various forums at the board. The idea is just like we had an equity relationship with ABA, but not in terms of ownership. We think that having good relationships with banking associations in other regions is important because and I think that's where we are going to make efforts on. We don't have concrete targets or timelines defined yet. We first want to execute the separation well. Once we execute the separation, we will look afresh at partnerships with other regional associations. And your input as members in this effort will be much appreciated.
Yeah, just to give you another tangible flavor of that, we're working now with the Banking Association of South Africa on their implementation of the Basel framework. Now, so what's our role? Our role is that we bring the view of how have we conducted advocacy with other regulatory bodies around the world. The Banking Association there locally brings the relationships that they have with the local policymakers, and when we put those two together, we kind of get the best of both worlds. We've done this on other issues with associations in Asia and Europe, in the Middle East, and so we expect that we'll continue to do those types of things. So